on doing it because I'll record a bit as we go along. And so we right then, Mick, you're I forgot already. Honorary Secretary of Gloucestershire 3As.
That's correct, yes.
And you're involved with the Track for Gloucestershire.
I am indeed, yes.
Can you explain what the Track for Gloucestershire is?
Okay, we're trying to get an 8-lane running track in Gloucestershire. The reason for this is that for county teams to compete in higher level league competition in particular, you must have an 8-lane track. So currently the main teams within the county that do that, 7AC, Gloucester AC, Cheltenham and County Harriers, Stroud, Forest of Dean and Cirencester, all have to hire tracks from outside the county if they want to host a meeting. So they never really have what you term a home meeting, home match. The same applies with certain levels of sort of area type competition. You know, the area schools, South West schools for example, you can hold here. You can hold local schools but on the 6-lane track at Cheltenham, but you can't hold any of the national, regional type stuff.
And is it going to be just the track or the field activities as well?
No, it's full track and field facilities, so it'll be, you know, a full athletics facility full stop.
So the existing site at Blackbridge couldn't be used again for competitions?
The problem with Blackbridge over the years since the track was put in there has always been the vandalism. It's not a secure site. The council have spent a lot of money keeping the track going there because of the problems with vandalism. And the reason that they've looked at another site within the city is to try and overcome that problem. And that's really why they're not sort of, if you like, sort of doing the Blackbridge track. The other reason is that did actually suffer with flooding when we had that really bad weather last year. Now, I know the Plot Court site where we're putting the new track is prone to flooding at one end, but the area that they're proposing to put the track in is on the bit near Bishop School, you know, which is just behind the tennis centre, and that bit isn't a flood area, so you know it will overcome that problem.
Have you looked at any other sites in the city, or was that the main one?
That's the main one. I mean, over the last, I've been involved county-wise for 12 years, and I've been sort of in the county and involved in athletics in the county for over 20. And all that time, they've been on about getting a track at a different site to overcome the problems with Blackbridge. It was felt that they could make it secure enough, which is why they put the original tartan one down there on the old sort of shell track that used to exist. And unfortunately, you know, their hopes just weren't fulfilled, so you know, they've had to be realistic and try and do something else. Plot Court, because it's got 3 other sporting setups on site, gives them a much better facility in that sense. You have the indoor tennis centre, which is open all day and evening. You have the school, which is open obviously all day and sometimes does evening activities. And you also have Gloucester University, you know, at the far end of Plot Court, and they use that site as well. And that's a sports university. They've got a very, very good sort of athletic setup and some marvellous facilities indoors. So you combine everything that's there, and the fact that you've got people marshalling, looking after, you know, around the area all day, and it's a much, much better proposition than anything else. The other thing, of course, is that it's got good transport links. You know, it's not that far out from the city centre. You can walk to it. You can certainly get a bus very easily to it from the train station or the bus station in the centre. Car-wise, you know, from almost anywhere in the county, you know, you're onto that bypass around Gloucester. So, you know, it's got a lot going for it. They have looked at other sites over the years. There were talks at one time of perhaps putting out near the airport, you know, at Staverton, but that came to nothing. You know, it's buying land and that sort of thing.
How far down the line is the plans progressed, and how is the site going to be funded?
The site's going to be funded partly by what we can raise as a county association, i.e. the athletics community within the county, partly by match funding. There are various sort of sports agencies that you can apply to for funding, so if you can get certain money together, then you know it allows you to double it. And the council have already earmarked money for it, and they've also, which is another good consideration and something that doesn't always happen with athletics track, they've earmarked money to cover the maintenance over the years. which is, you know, at least they've thought of that this time, which isn't always the case, and has been a problem around the country with athletics tracks.
How do people go about donating funds towards it?
There's a website, a Track for Gloucestershire website. You can go onto that, and there are various ways there that you can put money into the fund. You can buy a share in the track, which was one sort of idea we had. But basically, it gives you the appeal secretary's name and address, which is Bob Purcell, and the email sort of site and whatnot. And he will accept every and any donation that he can get. We are obviously looking at other fundraising opportunities. We've had some success with getting money from charities because we're looking to provide disabled facilities there, because disabled athletics is a growing thing in the country, you know, and the government in particular are very keen that any new facility should cater for them, and there's no reason why we shouldn't. So all of these sort of areas help us to raise money, and also sort of anything you can get, any assistance you can get from local companies.
Do you know how much the actual track would cost, or the stadium?
The cost of the whole thing, the council have come up with a figure of £1 million. So ours, the athletics community's share of that, if you like, is 250,000, which is a quarter of it.
And do you know how much you've got in the kitty so far?
We've got approaching 40,000 that we've raised so far in the few months that our appeal has been going. The council have allocated their 250. There is reputed to be other money sort of available, or other money that's been promised, you know, on top of that. So, if you like, it's early days. I think that the economic climate at the moment hasn't helped in terms of finding, if you like, one big sponsor to hand over a nice tidy little sum that catches the imagination. But if we can get things going, get a bit of publicity, which is what we're looking for, particularly with the Plot Court event on the 20th of July, then maybe we can get things up and running, you know.
What's this event you got lined up on the 20th of July?
Okay, it's years and years and years ago, all athletics matches were held on grass tracks, you know, so they were laid down on a school sports field or something like this. You know, it's well documented that people like Peter Snell, one of the great sort of New Zealand milers in the early 60s, actually ran a world mile record on a grass track, and some of those tracks were very, very good. I've run on them myself, and you know, they were quite forgiving, and a really, really nicely laid out and prepared one was a good surface to run on. So we thought it might sort of go back to the old village sports day and forces sports days type thing, where they'd all get round there and they'd have a beer tent, and you know, people would enjoy the athletics, and they'd all crowd round and have a good old natter and, you know, a bite to eat and that sort of thing afterwards. So it was a social event and a chance and an opportunity for villagers to meet, you know, the local community to get together.
What time does it start on the 20th?
First event's at 6 o'clock, which will be at 200 metres, and then we'll go up the scale 2, 4, 8 and a mile, and then we'll finish off at I think 8:30, 8:40ish with a medley relay, you know, which is one of the old traditional events that you don't see so much of these days, but it gives clubs a chance to get together as teams. And we've already had one club sort of quite excited. Apparently they have a club record for the medley relay, and they're looking to set an over 50s record, so it'll be quite nice.
Will you be ready in that?
No.
You said the track could be an 8, or is it 10
It's intended to be an 8-lane track.
Does that mean you'll be looking to stage international events there, or?
I don't know. I think probably we'd need some sort of stadium facility, and that won't really be there. There'll be a small stand, you know, to provide a storage facility, but there won't be a type of major stand. You won't have a venue where you can seat 2,000 or 3,000, so you perhaps hold an international match. But it's like everything. If you can get things up and running, then it's surprising what you can do. You only have to look at the festivals that they put on, where the British Milers Club do 800, 1500s, 5,000 steeplechases and that sort of thing at places like Millfield. There's one up in Manchester, there's one in Watford. There are 5 or 6 of these sort of different venues around the country which have built a particular event which attracts hundreds of athletes, you know, sort of around sort of their local track. So as long as you've got the changing facilities, as showers, you know, and sort of somewhere for people to get food and that sort of thing, you do have options.
My last question for you then, Mick, is Is there a need for it in Gloucester?
I think so. Cheltenham's track is a good track, but the ground prevents them from sort of turning it into an 8-lane one, so it's only ever going to be a 6-lane one on that side. It's a shared facility with the rugby club, and the rugby club are the prime users of the site. Obviously they generate more income than athletics ever does, so any council worth their salt have got to keep the facility going somehow, so they'll look at that. Which means at times that when we would like to hold events, we can't because it runs into the rugby season, or they're still using it. Blackbridge, as I've said, has got problems, so at the moment we only have one track in the country that we can use for competition, because Blackbridge only has a certificate for training, and B, we're one of only 2 counties in the country that hasn't got an 8-lane track, and that was one of UK Athletics' aims, when they first took over the sport from BAF, was to provide one of every county in the country. They've left us out somewhere, and we've never quite managed to work out why.
Thanks for that insight into the track for Gloucestershire, Mick. Is it okay if we get back to you in a month's time or so to find out how things are going?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Right.
I'm quite happy to talk to you again.
Thanks a lot, Mick.